Oh, hey Matt, how are you today?
I'm having a hoot. I'm even happier to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show. The question that we always ask everybody is, how do you like your coffee in the morning?
Very simple. I like a nice filtered coffee in a cafetiere with a little bit of milk.
Oh,
And
lovely.
I like the cup to be three quarters full.
What, as in coffee
Yeah,
or milk, or just
I
just
don't
the
like the
whole
coffee
combo?
right up to the top. I like there to be space so there's oxygen, and I don't like it hot.
Oh, okay, is there any scientific reason behind that?
Just that, like in this country, I don't know why we fill coffee right up to the top, and it's like it's just horrible. I'm like, I just like to have a nice civilized sip of something without it going everywhere.
Yeah, and you don't want it to be too hot as well. I'm the same. I like my coffee cool way down further than most people like it. So
Don't
I feel that. Now, tell me more about your business. What is it that you do and why do you do it?
Yeah, good questions. I'm a training company. I love teaching business owners my philosophy, my version of sales that I learned in a retail business, a family business over 16 years of dealing with the public. That's how I learned to do it. So, yeah, I'm now like super honoured and humbled to have a global training business. I've got clients all around the world, and I started the company on my kitchen table 6 years ago. So, yeah, it was an idea and a vision. And the reason why I love teaching people is because I know that when businesses can find a really congruent, natural way of selling that's sort of ethical and aligned with values, then a lot of good things happen.
Mm.
So that's my motivation, really.
Oh, I love it as well. You also like proof in the pudding. Like you said, you started at the kitchen table 6 years later, and now a global business.
Yeah,
So what you're, like you said, it's, with your values, it's ethical, and you're teaching others how to do it. You know, you're proving that you're doing it for yourself, which is even better.
well, everything I teach is how I do it. It's how I make my own money. It's how my staff use my framework. All of my staff are personally trained by me when it comes to represent my company as salespeople. And yeah, we actually do all of our teaching and training and all of our selling in line with our 7 company values.
And so you said you worked for the family business, and it's interesting. So I'm family business,
Yeah,
yeah, as well, and the values thing rings home, like rings true to me.
yeah.
But what was the motivation from going from that family business to it is far more setting it up by yourself? What was that journey like?
Great question. I think I don't know you that well yet, so there's 2 ways of doing it. I can give you the diplomatic answer, or I can just go for it.
Just go for it.
Alignment of values. My dad, my brother, and me were um, originally when we first started doing it, we had a similar vision. And as the company got bigger and bigger, we actually fell out of alignment on vision and fell out of alignment on values. And I still love my dad and my brother to this day. Um, and in the end, we just didn't quite find a way of dwelling in lots of harmony. And it was challenging. It was really tough. We had a great family business. We did a lot of great things together. But it was just hard. And in the end, my dad, we sort of retired dad off in 2009, and then my brother and I, we were more aligned. But in the end, after sort of 16 years, we were both having a slightly different vision, and it was probably the right time to go. Look, this is a really tough decision. I want to go and do something else. And I think my uncle passed away really quickly with a brain cancer, and I remember when he passed, I was approaching 40, and I was like, do you know what? I'm really proud of what me and my brother have achieved, and I'm really proud of our family business, and I want it to carry on going forever. It's still going now, which is great. And I left 5 years ago. Um, but I was like, if my time was to come now, I just feel like I'm a bit trapped in this business. I've
Mm.
fallen out of love with it a little bit. My brother wants to go one way, I want to go another way. It's cool. It's time for a change. And I was really, I'd had a great opportunity with England Rugby, who'd selected me and 23 others at grassroots level to help them grow the game of rugby at grassroots level, in small clubs.
Mm.
And they invested £50,000 in a leadership course each person. I was really lucky to be one of them. And that leadership course had really opened my eyes as a small business owner to a whole
Mm.
new world of coaching and consultation and
Mm.
training and learning and development. So to be honest with you, Charlie, I'd had my head turned a little bit. And
Mm.
and I just wanted to go and do something else. I felt like I got more to give. I got a great career. I was making good money. The business was in good shape. But I was just like, you know what? If I was going to die today, I think I'd be a bit disappointed with myself. So I went for it.
And so many people, I mean, including myself, will resonate with your story and your journey. And what was even more impressive, and doesn't get spoke about enough, is actually when is it the time to walk away from a business, even when it's successful. And I love your story because you come at it as a almost very pragmatic way. It's and rational. You've broken it all up into different sections of I still love my brother. Okay, the business is successful. It's just a slight case of differences here of that can carry on doing its own thing, but I need to do something more more fulfilling to myself. And I know I can do something. I can do something just as successful, just in a different arm. And it's
Yeah,
okay to have different careers.
yeah, it's a good summary. I think, look, one of the things that I learned that was really painful, and I wish I'd learned it a long, long time ago, was that what you tolerate, you become. And I
Mm.
had tolerated for a number of years. I sacrificed, this is how I felt, by the way. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong on anybody else. It's just how I
Yeah.
felt. I
Mhm.
felt that for the company that I was involved with, I had to play a supporting role to my brother, who was brilliant visionary, great sales, and I had to do some things in order to give him that space that I didn't like doing, and administration and being stuck in the same place. And that's not on him, that's on me, by the way. These are
Mm.
all my choices, that all of the decisions I made. And I just got to a stage where I was not a good person inside and externally. Externally, you'd have gone, "Oh, it's all right for him. He's got a nice business and a nice missus and a nice house and blah blah blah." But inside, I was absolutely dying. I was dying inside, and I'd make a lot of excuses. I've got an addictive personality, so I was eating far too much. I was drinking too much. I was looking for hits.
Mm.
I was getting in late some nights. Like, I just wasn't a good human being at all, and still have many, many flaws. I'm not saying I'm any better, but I
Mm.
think at the time I was blaming everybody else. It's my brother's fault. It's my dad's fault. It's everybody else's fault, and I can't take any risk because my wife and my kids. And in the end, I realised it all the power was with me, and I could make a different decision. And that was a big turning point. But also tolerating behaviour that wasn't aligned with my values
Mm.
meant that I was no longer aligned with my own values. So yeah,
Mm.
it sounds quite pragmatic, but I'll be honest, it's still hurts now. I've got a therapy session tomorrow around this stuff. I still seek therapy
Mm.
around it now because it's bloody hard work. It just is.
Mm. And I think I've always been in the position. I think every person should have therapy because you get to really understand yourself and your values. And I'm glad you. I've always had a saying that um, it's kind of like if the you tolerating like not just tolerate having that levels of tolerating stuff that's not quite right, you're bringing in my head it's like bringing in sort of that negative energy that doesn't necessarily align with your values. And then I always say because there's that misalignment, that energy has to go somewhere. So the energy doesn't get absorbed or disappear, it's got to go somewhere. And then that's where the almost like the addictive personality comes in because you're almost trying to fill that void
Yeah,
elsewhere.
totally.
And everybody at the time has definitely had too much cake or too much alcohol or too much this or too much. I'm saying the word just too much because it's
Yeah.
this energy going somewhere else to kind of escape the stuff that you don't even want to face. I'm sure every business owner definitely had that point. It's great that you've recognised to go, right, this is the new venture, the new thing that I'm doing, but that's far more aligned with you. So if we turn to sales, because that is your subject matter, what are the sort of three top myths with sales that people don't quite understand?
Yeah, great question. I think, well, firstly, the number one thing is that the definition of sales is just totally wrong. Um, I think the big myth is that you're meant to sell something every time, and you're not. That's not what sales is. I think the second thing is that you need to have the gift of the gab, and you don't. That you're not meant. It's not meant to be your idea for someone to buy from you in the 21st century. They're meant to go, hey, I've selected you in a highly competitive marketplace because I've seen this or that I think aligns with me, and it's meant to be the buyer's idea to buy from you. How people actually go about sales, which I see sales and the way I teach it's a bit like being a GP, a doctor. It's like you're meant to gather information about the prospect, what their vision is, what the result they want to get. By not getting that result, what are the problems? And a bit like going to the doctors, it's before you solve anything, you shouldn't solve anything when you're selling. You should ask and understand and really deeply commit to understand. That's how I teach sales, is deeply commit
Mm.
to listening and understanding your possible client's point of view and see it from their prism, have their best interests at heart, and then once you've gathered enough information to make a decision, then and the decision is from the information that we've gathered so far, do you have a product or service that could solve that problem or accelerate the result they're looking for, or not? And I think those three things I see honestly. I travel the world, I speak around the world, I've got clients from around the world. Doesn't matter where I'm doing. Most people get those three things badly wrong.
And when you say they get them badly wrong, what are some of the things that aren't quite right?
Yeah, so most people think they're meant to sell you every time by explaining and pitching, and just because you've shown a bit of interest, they're like bang, they're all over you with the features and advantages and benefits. And the problem is in the 21st century is that like most of our possible clients have done most of this work for themselves before they even get to us. And all we have to do is actually find out what do they already know and what do they want. Like, what do they need from us? That's all we have to do. But yeah, what most people do wrong is the moment you show like a scintilla of interest, they're like, bang. And they think that their job is to sell you something. And what they think that means is for you to give them money. And the moment they start doing that, they've just got it completely wrong. If you're having to explain why someone should buy from you, you're losing.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my head, as soon as you're saying someone is coming up to you, let's do the sort of the Del Boy Trotter, walking up to you, does the sell bit. In my head, the first sentence that came up to me was, "Cool beans, mate."
Yeah,
That was my first initial reaction. I was like, "Yep, sure."
yeah, yeah.
And you always become allergic to it as well. And I know when you can just see it's just like, I didn't ask for this. Kind of just wanted to tell
Oh,
you, here's my problems, and please solve my problems.
and that's the second big problem that I notice all the time is a complete lack of qualification. So, like, it's very easy, isn't it? If somebody puts their hand up and moves towards you, a qualification, a micro commitment, a mini step, an opt-in, a walk into your showroom, like, it doesn't mean to say they're going to buy, but it means they're sort of showing a little bit of interest in at least somewhat a bit of interest about how your product or service might be able to help them. And you need that. You need people to demonstrate some interest. And like how I teach people, if they haven't done that, you can't carry on. You're not meant to carry on. It's like, look, unless you can give me a bloody good reason why you think I might be able to help you, I'm not going to sit here and try and talk you into something you don't want. Like, that's just horrible. And I'm afraid it's still the majority of what I see and sense and hear and tend to find in
Mm.
unprofessional, untrained, salespeople.
And there's always this secret bonus option. I always say if you do get to the end of like sort of end of the diagnostic cell, you go, we just don't really have your services. This is where I'm like, okay, who do I know in my network who can solve this problem? Who I can just go, I know who you need to talk to. You don't need to talk to me. You need to go to speak to my mate.
Yeah.
And they will solve your problem. Because at the end of the day, then they win. My associate wins. I win because at some point karma comes around and it will just come back full circle. And you don't know when you need to call in that phone call.
And the word that I associate with what you've just beautifully articulated is stakeholder. And like, once I've done my job as a salesperson, that is to ascertain whether or not we're a good fit, then the next job is to decide whether or not, if we're a good fit, we progress. And like anybody listening to this will know when they've cracked sales is when they ask a few questions to somebody that's shown a bit of interest and say, hey, from the information that I've gathered so far, I'm going to be open and real. I can't see where we fit in. So either help me understand more and let me ask some better questions and understand you, or let me send you on to somebody who I think could help. And I think when you get to that stage, you'll be in great shape if you're not already there.
And when you, so then we're just talking about say it's the opposite. You can uh, help them, and the leads that you come in through that you're qualifying, they are the sort of the ideal customers. How do you, what are you any tips on how you can increase the probability that they're going to say yes?
Yeah, totally. Like micro commitments. Like by the time I'm ready to exchange contracts with somebody, we will have had multiple previous micro commitments online, offline, in person, over the phone, Zooms, texts, WhatsApps, opt-ins, demonstrations, presentations, webinar attendances, site surveys, site visits. Just like when I got married to Kerry, we used to call it courting. Kerry and I, for 4 years before we got married, in front of 130 people in Malvern, in the heart of England, had been courting for 4 years. We knew each other's grandparents, we knew each other's best mates, we'd had a row and got over it. We'd been to Paris, we'd been to London, we'd been to Ireland, we'd been to America. We'd had amazing dinners together, we'd had romantic evenings. We'd had arguments, we'd had down days, we loved each other in our tracksuits, we had days without makeup, with makeup, looking good, looking bad. Like all of the stuff that needed to happen to get to a point where both parties go all in and get married, and in the business sense, exchange the contract that's legally binding and money, time, or energy exchanges hands. Like, there's stuff that needs to happen before that, and I think so many people don't understand that. They're trying to get married on the first date. They're trying to snog somebody's face off before you even held hands, and it's just
It's a proper little soap opera.
like when you think about it, you see some of these salespeople that you show a little bit of interest, then bang, they're all over you like a squid on a diver's mask, and like they're just saying everything, they'll do anything, and it's just like really not attractive. So I think the way we teach is the complete opposite to what most people are experiencing, and that is a process, good questions, to respond, not react, to have some skills, to move slowly, to be non-emotional and pretty logical, and at the same time natural and caring, and soft spiritual energy and sharp skills is really what I'm looking for. And I think when you provide that experience to a possible buyer, the perception that possible buyer has of, blimey, if their salespeople are this well skilled, if the client experience before I've even bought anything is this good, then just imagine how good it is, for me to give them some money, and for them to be, for me to be a client of theirs. And I think like this stuff really matters in the 21st century. Edge, it's an edge.
Oh, just that sentence alone. you giving them the best possible experience before they've even become a customer just sets everything on the right tone for when you even do start a project. Uh, I always like to approach my sales as I like to treat them as a customer before they've even become a customer. So if they've got any marketing questions, they need help with anything, I'll happily give you the answers, how give you the processes, the tools. They're like, this is what you need to do, this is where you need to go, this is what you need to look for. And just, very much just treat them just like as if they were one of the clients I was coaching myself. Um, and yeah, they because you've been so helpful, they go, oh, I like this. It's almost like they've had a taster, like a free trial.
Yeah, I
That's the
mean,
way to think of it.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we are emotional when we're buying things. We're very emotional. Nearly all of it's emotion. Nearly all of it is how it makes us feel. And for anybody listening, if they don't agree with that, think about the last time you wanted to buy something and the salesperson made you feel uncomfortable.
Mm.
Like that happens a lot, and you will label that memory negatively, and you'll also associate that memory and that label with that company and that brand, and you'll never go there again, and you'll never recommend anybody. So, like the opposite is true also, and this happens to I'm humbled to share this to my staff and me regularly. We regularly get people who sign up to my 12-month academy, or I might be training their team for the year, or whatever it might be, who write in and say it was an absolute pleasure to be sold to by your company.
And you
And
don't hear that at all, if ever. That is a huge accolade.
obviously, on a sales training company, people are skeptical of being sold to by a sales training company, and I think that makes sense. So
Yeah.
they are uber watching everything that we do, and that's why my team have to follow a strict process as well as be natural. Because, like, look, I've said it before. This really matters, and how you make people feel before, during, and after a sale is critical.
Mm,
And I think I'm one of the only people that teaches this, um, because again, this is another mistake a lot of people make: is once they've got the sale, the salesperson's off doing other things, and actually a big part of the process, the sales process, is retaining your existing clients. Like the
mm,
sale doesn't stop when someone buys; it stops when they leave.
mm. Absolutely, because you even just the onboarding process from getting the salesperson into just kind of into your normal day, let's call it the day to day. Like if you don't get that onboarding process again, it's just another thing that just leaves a really bad taste in their mouth. Now, I want to go back to the emotion because I've always the model I always work on is obviously you get their attention, you hook them in with the emotion, and then they'll close then with the logic and the rationale. So the other brain kicks in, and I'm a marketer, so I'll come in and go like, okay, well, how do we load the rationale so that they are convincing themselves they need it because of that emotional attachment that we've hooked them in at the start with. So tell me more, just like some of the different types of emotions. How do we that hooks these people in to go, I'm interested, I need to fulfill this emotion.
Yeah, before I do that, the thing that you were just describing is my most advanced sales training. It's called the the closed sales cycle. It's everything I teach is about the client should be progressing towards a vision they've got of a result of when they purchase with your product or service themselves, and your job is to guide them if they want to get there or not. And that is how I teach it, because ultimately, if you want the exchange of contracts to be effortless and graceful and elegant, then you've got to do all the hard work at the beginning, and most people don't do that. They go hard on emotion, there isn't any logic, or they go too hard on logic and there's no emotion, and the buyer's brain, never really sees it for itself, and that's a big mistake people make. So, yeah, going back to the question, it's very simple from my point of view, Charlie. It's very simple, and that is, like, you've got to join the conversation in a possible buyer's mind. From the very moment they move towards you, they have to be able to visualize getting a result. Like I always go, by the way, my two questions I have a philosophy called "Open with a Close." That's what my book's called, "Open with a Close," and and what it means is when somebody moves towards you, you've got one job and one job only, and that is to find out what vision they've got in their head of the result they need to get for it to be the greatest investment they've ever made, and that's all you've got to focus on. So, like from my point of view, all you have to do is make sure that you're joining the conversation in the buyer's mind, like in everything you do, the written word, the spoken word, the questions, the copy, like any visuals, any perception, doesn't matter what it is, it's got to be obvious in somebody else's mind, not without you explaining it to them about what they need to get at the end. They've got to have a vision of that. And the problem is, again, if you think about what most salespeople do, is they have a vision of what they think they can do for you before they even understand you. And then off they go with their big pitch and their features, advantages, and benefits, and their assumptions and presumptions. And they only have to say one thing that you're not thinking, and you're out. So the answer to your question is make sure that you understand from the buyer's prism what they're trying to achieve and what they're trying to get, and join that conversation, you're good.
So then you're saying about there's a lot of the pre-work, the pre-heavy work. Now, are we talking about that building up that vision, just that alignment of vision? Is that what I just want to clarify
I think
practically what all of this looks like for a small
I
business?
think it's understanding the vision of somebody that's moved towards you. Like, what are they seeing in your product or service that led them to move towards you? Because nowadays you can Google, like, I'm a sales trainer, right? If you Google sales training now, I guarantee you won't get to me. Like, there's millions of them, which is
Mm.
why I don't call myself a sales trainer. I'm called the closing sales trainer. Because if I say to you sales, that can create a massive vision, a different vision in people's mind. If I said exchanging the contract, closing the sale, that's really obvious and it's easy to see in somebody's brain.
Mm.
So I think as long as you can create a vision for somebody that doesn't need explaining, most of
Mm.
the work's done.
And in my head, I'm instantly going, I know what the pain point is. It's like they've got marketing going, they've got leads going, and the frustration they're having is they're having lots of sales calls, but none of it's converting into revenue on the bottom line.
That's
That
it.
is the instant pain point, and I'm saying frustration because what it is a frustration because you've got a good feel, you get all these good feelings of all the other stuff in the linear, the line is all working, and it's like, why is this not translating into more revenue to my business? Why are we not closing the sale? And you
Yeah,
just know how to have that conversation.
yeah. Without having to explain it too much, you've just described what my company does without me speaking.
Exactly. That's the power, isn't it? That's the power when you work through your process, you work through the framework, and you get it right. So we talked about the vision. So what is the vision for your business?
Great question. We're actually at the end of um, next year is our final year of 5. So the way we operate is 5-year planning, broken down into annual planning, broken down into quarterly planning, broken down into monthly planning, broken down into daily planning. So that's the model that we have. So we've got 3 sort of key targets to hit by the end of next year. One is a revenue target. One is a number of clients served target, and one of those is number of clients attended target. So, like the vision right now is to hit that next year. We're a bit short actually this year. We've had to realign some of our targets. We've fallen quite a bit short actually on our targets this year. And what's been great is being able to realign, and we feel that actually by doing less and having less going out, that we can
Mm.
actually hit our target next year. So we're sort of reevaluating and streamlining how we operate actually for next year. So once that final plan is in place, which we're finalising as we speak, actually, then we'll start thinking about what comes after year 5.
And I love that you brought that up because we were obviously having a bit of a pre-chat and we are saying like It's all very good looking at these Instagrammy gurus who travel in the world, with these saying you can have a 6, 7 turnover, you get the turnover business and work 3 hours a day. What's not really factored in or what's spoken about is, yeah, it's actually not hard to have a billion turnover business and work 3 hours a day, because you could just put lots of people in place in every little bit of the process. How much profit have you got left? is the questions I'm asking.
I'm happy to share that last year we probably went, not probably, we probably went a little bit too hard on sort of investing in the future, and we just haven't been as profitable as we want to be this year. Now, the positive to that is some of the stuff that we put in place for next
Mhm.
year, this year, is already in place. So we won't have that investment next year, and we'll be able to get back on track, if you like. But yeah, I think it's winning or learning, isn't it, in business? And at the moment, we're learning.
Well, what we're talking about is the growth curve. It's when you first start off at the kitchen table, the challenges you need for you to get bigger are very different. When you've got team members, you've got facilities, you've got assets. Like you said, there is going to be times where your profitability is going to get hit a little bit because you're doing this investment. But because you've done that investment, it's either whether that was infrastructure change, skills change, just product development, R&D, whatever it was, that next year that investment is going to have an effect on the bottom line that you wouldn't have been able to get without that investment. And these are they're not going to sort of calculated risks, because you are eating into the profit, but well, the return on investment for that lag happens to be over a 2-3 year period. Just doesn't happen to be, so whereas some things like, I don't know, software may have a 3-day return on investment. We've got to do these calculations to go, no, if I do these actions, it's going to come in and it's going to come into fruition. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I don't think, again, it doesn't get talked about enough, where it's okay, you're going to have these swings, and but it's for that, like you said, 5-year goal, because you won't be able, I'll just say it now, you won't hit that 5-year goal if you hadn't have done it.
Yeah,
It's really
exactly.
simple as it. Um, so that's been great. I think we've really dug into a whole bunch of different sales here today, and I know we've debunked a lot of the shroud that goes over sales of the over eager salesman. Now, is there one thing that a person can buy from you that is under £100 that would add a whole ton of value to their lives?
Yeah, great question. So, firstly, you can buy my book for under £100. It's £12.99 on Amazon, which is called Open with a Close. The truth is, don't buy it on Amazon. You can actually get it free on my website if you want my team to follow you up, if you're looking for sales support, because you'll be in our pipeline if you do that. But if you don't, just go and get it on Amazon. If you don't like to read, then you can get it on Audible or Spotify or any of the major networks that are out there nowadays. So yeah, it just depends what people want to do. If you're just inquisitive but you don't want to be followed up, then don't go to the website. Just get it on one of the major platforms.
Now, I'm going to finish on one final thing, because it was a lesson I learned really early on, that at the end of the day, the game of business is you're just gonna run faster than everybody else, and to run faster than everybody else, you got to have as many leads as possible. Now, if you have a life skill of being able to sell and being able to close those leads, you can generally fix 99% of all the other problems that you've got going on. So I highly, highly recommend downloading. I'm going to say download your book, Matt, because I think they'll get a whole bunch of value speaking with your team, and even in engaging in your services. So don't buy it on Amazon. Go and download it from Matt. Be in
Well,
his sales
that,
process and
thank
experience it.
I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you what's really nice about what you've said. So, when people visit eliteclosingacademy.com and download the book, the, the first thing it does, it enables my team and I to demonstrate what we believe in, which is to create a great client experience. So, the first thing that happens is I literally will shower you with lots of love. And what I mean by that is, for every chapter of my book, my team and I took the time to do a video for each chapter done by me. So, what's in the chapter, key lessons, what you could learn from it, big takeaways. So, for each chapter of the book, you also get a video. You get the audio version, you get scripts, you get basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to go, look, we believe that our philosophy is going to be moving forwards the right way. And we want to demonstrate by giving you some resources. We want you to give it a go. It might not be for everyone, but if it is for you and you want to know more, you can analyze it, you can become attentive, you can join our community. There's lots of like minded people in my community, business owners and their teams that are looking for like minded business owners as a team. So, literally, the whole of my client experience journey from the moment you download it and gives you details kicks in. And then by the time one of my team phones you, it's very much like, how can we help you? What can we send you? We've got some free stuff. You might want to invest in some stuff. It's up to you. So it really helps us create a client experience and some touch points. That's why we do it.
I love it. On that note, thank you so much, Matt, for your time today and coming onto the show. It's been an absolute pleasure and hope you come back anytime soon.
See you soon. Thanks so much.